So today I'll be speaking a little bit about the importance of including sex-positive therapy techniques into commonly accepted PTSD treatments for sexual assault survivors. My source material focused primarily on female survivors, but this is an issue that can really affect anyone, so I'm going to keep it gender neutral. Sex positivity refers to an approach that views sexuality as a normative and essential part of human behavior and wellness. And sex positivity basically says that all mutually consensual expressions of sexuality are valid. So, sex positive therapy really emphasizes the presence of positive pleasure and not just the absence of physical and emotional harm. And the therapist will really model the acceptance of healthy sexuality and encourages openness in discussing topics that are not only related to the assault, but to the promotion of a positive view of sexuality and intimacy for their client. So why does this matter? First, as we well know, sexual assault survivors are at a very high risk for experiencing PTSD. And a symptom of PTSD in general is sexual dysfunction, and this is especially true for sexual assault survivors. In many cases, for survivors of sexual assault, engaging in or experiencing, any kind of physical or sexual intimacy can be a really strong trigger that leads to re-traumatization, isolation, avoidance, and then survivors can also sometimes begin to engage in a lot of unsafe sexual behaviors, which can also lead to re-traumatization. And research has shown that regaining a healthy sense of sexuality and positive sexual self-concept are really important priorities for survivors. And in fact, the authors found that both in the literature and in their own therapy practices, many survivors will come to treatment specifically with this goal in mind, or about concerns with their intimate relationships. However, the current widely accepted approaches to treatment focus really on reducing symptoms of trauma, and they don't specifically or intentionally address sexual concerns that come up in the wake of an assault. So this means that essentially, survivors are not really getting the chance to explore and deal with this really important piece of their lives and their identities through their sexual assault treatment. And it's the author's contention and, my belief as well that introducing a sex-positive framework into sexual assault is a really important topic that merits further exploration and research. And for me, choosing this topic was very much a parsing situation. I decided to get my MSW specifically after studying sexual assault policy and then working directly in sexual assault prevention. And sexual assault's a really important issue for me. So even in this class, I'm always sort of tying things back to sexual assault. And it's this ever-present lens through which I view my work. In my spare time for fun, I like to watch reality TV shows and count how many rape myths are being endorsed or how much toxic masculinity is being presented. So through this class, I've really tried to push myself to apply my scholarly pursuits, not only to looking at sexual assault, but also looking at positive sexuality and healthy sexuality and not sort of myopically focusing on situations where they are absent. And this is definitely, a blind spot that I've felt and encountered professionally in the sexual assault prevention field. And then finally, really quickly, from a social justice perspective, as we continue to learn in this class, sexuality is such a vital part of the human experience, and it's such an important part of being a person. And our culture promotes so many unhealthy sexual ideas and practices, so I think it's really vital to offer sexual assault survivors, this pathway to taking ownership of this really central component of their lives in a way that's, humanistic and fair. Thank you.